This is Mann-Dude, and you are listening to the Nothing Shocking podcast.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking podcast, a non-genre based, all-ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied, and with me in Dog Bowl Studios is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers. Like our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter at NoShockPod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, and downtown Davenport, Iowa. We would like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
Mann-Dude.
Mann-Dude. He's promoting the re-release of the Manic Distortion album
on Heaven and Hell Records.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, great interview. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get to it.
All right, good night.
Good night. Guy, welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'd like to introduce to you my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Hey, Guy. How's it going tonight?
Jeff, nice to meet you. How you doing?
Good.
All right, so we're totally stoked to have you on. So you have to understand that I listened to Mann-Dude when I first walked into my neighborhood record store. I think it was 1989, and the Sleight of Hand album was just out. The record store was promoting it, and I walked in there and Painted Black was on. I was like, what is this? So this is kind of like bringing me back to my childhood just a little bit.
Wow, that's great.
Fantastic. Well, COVID-19 has hindered the rock and roll business for the past 2 years now. How did Heaven and Hell Records approach you to release Manic Distortion? And this is also included in some bonus material. Was this material that was back in your archive, or how did it work?
Yeah. Those three bonus songs originally were going to be on Manic Distortion, and as it got down to it, I wanted to do some more vocal tunes that I was working on. So I pulled those tunes, and those tunes have just been sitting on the shelf now for 30 years. So I love those tunes, and I'm glad that I was able to put them on this. Heaven and Hell Records just kind of contacted me out of the blue and told me they wanted to reissue the album. So I thought that was real exciting.
Absolutely. I guess I'm a little ignorant when it comes to re-releasing material with these smaller labels now that are taking albums from the past and re-releasing them, making them new again. What is the process for an artist to re-release new material? Is there a lot of legal matters that go involved with that?
Well, there wasn't for this because I put this out myself, out on Metal Future Records, which I was just calling my own record company.
Gotcha.
So, I own the tunes and the album, so there was nothing legal that was a problem.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. You've been a professional drummer and a guitarist. Which came first, and who are some of your influences?
Well, what came first was the guitar. I started playing when I was 7 years old, and I think it was the Beatles that really got me into it. Yeah. So I played guitar for, let's see, I started at 7. I played guitar till like I was 14 or so. I got into the drums at age 12. And Jeff, what was the very last? I
was just wondering for each, who are some of your influences, both guitar and drums?
Yeah, it would have to be Jimi Hendrix, Jeff Beck way back then. I really liked the Truth album. My first concert that I saw was Jimi Hendrix in 1969. Yeah. But it was like listening to Jimmy's first album, Are You Experienced? And then the Electric Ladyland. Those really influenced me pretty heavy. And then back when I was like 13, 14, I was listening to a group called Patto, P-A-T-T-O. Mm-hmm. And the guitar player in that band was Ollie Hassel. And a left-handed guitarist, really ripping. He kind of played a little bit like Alan Holdsworth, but was more rock and roll, and he was a huge influence on me.
Wow. Nice. It seems like as though that you've had two separate careers, mm-hmm. one as a drummer, the other as a guitarist. Can you kind of tell us a little bit more about the journey of having two separate careers in two different instrumentations?
Yeah. And it's been kind of confusing to people, too, because I was a professional drummer for 10 years. And, I was doing studio work. I played on commercials. I played with Patrice Rushen. She's a keyboard player. She had a great 11-piece band at the time. I played drums for Larry Carlton. And then probably my best gig was I played for John Anderson, the lead singer from Yes. And we did a tour of the United States and all through Canada. And I even drummed for Kevin Dubrow, the lead singer from Quiet Riot. And by the way, Kevin Dubrow and I, we grew up on the same block. And we hung out for a good couple years, and we used to go to the Whiskey A Go-Go about every weekend. And Kevin was a big influence on me. He turned me on to a lot of English bands back then, and guitar players also. So, what happened was, I think towards the end of my drumming career, I was getting bored, and I was playing with some good guitar players. Steve Vai was actually playing in this fusion band I had called the Out Band. And I played with another good guitarist named Michael Thompson. But it was like watching Steve and Michael, it was like I felt like I wanted to do what they were doing, and I wanted to front my own band. And I started taking guitar lessons with Steve Vai, and probably studied with him for about 6 months. And once I started to get good on guitar again, I started practicing like 6 to 12 hours a day. And that was like for about 3 years. I like really went into it solid. And I think seeing AC/DC way back then, it was at the Forum. I believe this was like about 1983. And that kind of set my direction fully back into the metal thing. That's why I started practicing all those hours and pretty solid, and left the drumming behind.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah. Can you talk more about that first band you formed, and who did you have playing with you?
My first band?
Yeah.
Well, it was, I would say, after I got into guitar, for a few years through this guy. He introduced me to Michelangelo Badio, and I joined his band. I was his second guitarist.
Okay.
And that was, I would say, my first metal thing that I was into. And then I actually played with Kevin DuBrow, playing guitar for him. So I did play drums. It was kind of funny. I played drums with Kevin DuBrow some years before that, and then ended up playing for Kevin. And we did a lot of we did some songwriting, a lot of rehearsing, and then eventually then I started my own band, the Guy Mann-Dude band.
Yeah. I know this is kind of off of our script here, but
yeah.
I wanted to kind of touch upon your time touring as the touring drummer for John Anderson.
Sure.
How did that opportunity come your way? Obviously, John Anderson is not in the metal realm of things, a very progressive artist. But how did this opportunity come your way?
Well, I was playing drums with George Benson's backup band at a club in L.A., and they were in the same management as John Anderson. And so it came up that John needed a drummer. I guess his drummer went back to England or something. And so this management company got a hold of they got my name, and I know there was like about 6 drummers names that were given into the management company. And John brought his band out and saw me play. And now someone in the management company gave me an acetate of John's album. So I spent like a couple days with that. And when John auditioned me, I nailed it. I wrote out charts for myself, and I don't know why some other drummers didn't work out, but I think I nailed it so good that there was no way he couldn't give me the gig. I mean, the song "Close to the Edge" was like something like 18 minutes, and I wrote out like a 7-page chart for it, and it was a 2-day audition. And I just did really well on it and got along with the musicians, and he gave me the gig.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
You want to take the next one, Jeff?
Well, I'm a big fan of Alice Cooper. You played on 3 tracks on the Trash album. Can you talk a little bit about how that came about?
Yeah, well, it was during recording my first album, Sleight of Hand. I was recording at Village Recorders, and so was Alice. And the co-producer on Sleight of Hand, he was in the management company of Alice, the same management company. And so the word kind of came up that Alice needed some more guitar work on his album. And I was at the studio for about a week. I didn't hear anything from Alice, and just kind of was working on my album. And one day in the studio, Alice, I turned around and Alice was right there in my studio. And we shot the shit for a while. We didn't really talk about music or recording on his album. And I think Alice liked me. We got along right off the bat. And it was maybe after, 5 days or so, he had me come over and listen to his material. So I went over to his studio, and his producer, Desmond Child, was there, and they played me some tracks. And I was kind of ballsy. I listened to him, and I just stood up and I told him, I said, look, this material, it's sounding like John Cougar. You need some heavy guitars. You need and it needs to be more ballsy, more heavy. And right away, Alice stood up. He said, he's right. This album needs to be more heavy metal. And I was kind of afraid what they were going to think, but it was kind of my true feelings about that. And so Desmond, he put me to work. And I worked on Trash for a good 3 days. I redid a lot of rhythms. I did some solos, and it was kind of neat at the time because he just kind of left me alone with his engineer, and I just kind of did what I thought should be done. And after a few days, that was it. You know, I did a lot of hard work on that album, and they were happy with it.
Speaking of the Trash album, as you look at the credits and the liner notes of that album, it's a who's who of musicians that completed that album by committee. Can you talk a little bit more about your work with any of the other musicians that came in on that album, or were you just kind of isolated by yourself? How did it work out?
On the Trash album, that was just me and the engineer. You know, it was later on, down the line when, okay, well, see, Desmond really liked my playing on it. And from that album, he had me do some work in New York on this girl singer's album named Robin Beck.
Yeah.
And when I flew with Desmond to New York, actually, Alice was in Chicago, and he joined us. We all flew together in New York, and we took a limousine up to Bearsville Studio in upstate New York. And Alice was finishing up the Trash album. I did a little more work on the Trash album in New York, and then rehearsed for Robin Beck's album, did some recording there. So it was really after that album, Desmond was doing the Shocker album for the movie, Wes Craven's movie Shocker. Mm-hmm. And that's when I, played with and hung out with some other musicians for that album. As far as Trash, I didn't really see any of those musicians during when I was doing the Trash album. But once we did the Shocker album, then it was a little more work with Alice, and Desmond wanted to put together a star-studded band because at the time he was thinking he wanted to do a video for that album. So it was actually me who suggested, I just point blank said to him, look, if you want to get a star-studded band, get Tommy Lee, get Rudy Zarzo, and it was, I'm not sure how Vivian Campbell came up. That was through Desmond. I think it was because Vivian was in a big video at that time that was on MTV. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, like 2 days later, that band was in the studio at the record plant. That's the power of the Desmond childhood.
Yes. Well, we had Desmond on last year. Yeah. Kind of talked about the Shocker soundtrack ever so little, but we also had Jean Beauvoir on a few years ago. He was also a contributing factor to the Dudes of Wrath 2, if my memory serves me right. Is that correct?
Well, Desmond called him and me to co-write for that album, but it was pretty much me. The songs I co-wrote with Desmond was just me and Desmond.
Gotcha. Well, as we were speaking of the Dudes of Wrath, Paul Stanley was also on co-vocals with Desmond on the Shocker soundtrack. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Desmond wanted to do a video, but what killed it was there was a Kiss album coming out, and Kiss's record company wouldn't allow Paul Stanley on this video, so that it just kind of all fell apart as far as.
Gotcha.
But yeah, Paul was great. You know, I hung out with him a bit. Real nice guy, and you know, it was really great that he sang on that tune.
It was great
because Paul wrote that song with Desmond.
It's a great song. Fantastic.
Were those the only tracks, or did you got any tracks still in the closet on that one?
Well, there was like 3 tracks on that album that I co-wrote with Desmond on there.
Very good. We've heard many artists over the years of their dealings with MCA Records. MCA Records was the first label that you had signed with. Can you tell us the story about signing with MCA?
Yeah. Well, at the time, you know, I had my my own band going, and I knew the manager for the Red Hot Chili Peppers. This was before they really exploded. So I hooked up with that manager, and at the time I did a demo tape with about 5 songs, and I did a couple low budget videos, and he got those to this A&R guy, Bruce Dickinson, not the singer of Iron Maiden, but and Bruce at the time was about to transfer from EMI to MCA. And so once he made that move, Bruce is the one who got me signed to MCA. And but unfortunately, you know, MCA, they put out my first album and video. That was all great. And, you know, the Paint It Black video.
Right.
But kind of down the line, MCA really wasn't set up to handle a metal department. And I don't think it was, quote unquote, you know, commercial enough for them. And just kind of down the line, they aced their metal department. And then eventually a bunch of us on that label got dropped. And so that's why I did my own thing and I put out the Manic Distortion album.
Gotcha. Well, I guess that would lead into the next question was, I guess maybe we're a little bit off chart here, but your first record deal, how many labels did you have, you know, bidding for you? Was it a war, or was MCA the clear favorite for you to sign with? Or how did it work out?
Well, I was trying to get signed with maybe a couple other smaller guitar labels, but MCA was a major label, and they did sink a lot of. They had the money to put in on for me, so having MCA want me to sign with them, that was back then. That was a great thing. They were a major label.
Absolutely. So, okay, help me out with the name though. In the early '90s, you collaborated with Milos Dodo Dozel. Is that right? Dozel? Is that
Dozel?
Yeah,
Milos Doležal.
Milos Doležal.
So this was after Manic Distortion came out, and Milos was a student at MIT, and my band played over at MIT, and Milos introduced himself to me, and he was well known in the Czech Republic. And at that time, he wanted to put out an album and have somebody from America produce it. You know, he really liked my stuff, and we started hanging out. And so he actually he brought me over to the Czech Republic to produce his album, and you know that was very kind of a new thing for me, but it was also a way for me to get my album Manic Distortion licensed over in Europe. And that's what happened. Once he brought me over, it was licensed by a record label called Popron. And so I went over and I produced, we kind of started doing some pre-production on it before he went back to the Czech Republic. And then a few months later, he brought me over. And so I ended up producing him there. And then on one of the songs was a ballad kind of a power ballad. And I sang on that with him and played on it. And Pop Ron did a video over there. Well, what happened was that video was huge, because when they released that video, the whole country saw it. I think they only had like 3 TV stations there in the Czech Republic. So that became huge, and the record sold really well. And so once that happened, about 6 months later, or in between there, Miloš said, hey, this record is so big, we should combine bands and tour the country. And that's what happened. We did like 16 dates.
Wow.
Over in the Czech Republic. We toured all over the country. And there was so much press. I mean, I have a stack of magazines. There was so much press going on. Like, we became like superstars there. And also, too, there was a couple other bands I ended up doing some production on and some mixing, a band called Citron. But anyway, so I did that tour, and Miloš had a really good drummer, and that went really well. It was a really good band, and it was a lot of fun to tour, though. And so after that, we were so well known, we ended up doing an album together. And I did, I would say it was like a 50-50 type thing with me and Miloš, and a lot of good work was done on that album. Some of it was like kind of pop metal, and we had another hit on that album too. It was named after their famous bridge there, Charles Bridge. We did another video, and so both these videos were shown all the time on Czech TV.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
On that second album, you had, was that the one with Greg Bissonette on drums?
Yes. Yeah, we actually did the drum tracks in L.A., and then I brought the tapes over to the Czech Republic, and that was all transferred to digital, and I did all the overdubbing there at the Czech Republic.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I'm going to change gears on you a little bit here. As the 90s progressed, Guy Mann-Dude kind of vanished from the metal scene.
Yeah.
Where did Guy Mann-Dude go?
Well, that's right. I would say like approaching like the mid-90s, I was getting into some other things. I was getting into keyboards, number one, and also I was getting into doing film score, trying to break into that scene. So, and I scored some cartoons. I did score a film, but it was really hard to really break in, and because there seemed to be a certain number of film scorers who had that sewn up. But as it was getting in the later 90s, I was getting to the keyboard. I was getting away from metal, really. I was kind of tired of the music business as far as that was concerned. And a lot of bands took their lumps when that Seattle sound was coming in, and Nirvana and stuff. And you got a whole new group of kids listening to that kind of music. And as I said, a lot of metal bands, they took their lumps while that was going on. And I wasn't about to, I was growing as a musician, and I wasn't going to stay another 10 years hoping to do another metal album. I kind of felt I did what I wanted to do. My playing was at its height on the Manic Distortion album, and also when I toured over in Czechoslovakia doing the metal thing. But there was a time where I remember thinking, I think I'm getting a little too old for this scene and the kids who were into metal. It was kind of a natural progression to me. And I was excited with the piano, and I was studying with a great jazz pianist named Terry Trotter. Eventually, I took some lessons with Otmaro Ruiz. He's really well known in L.A., and I just started growing in other directions.
Oh, very good.
So, take it back to Manic Distortion. What's some of the gear you used on that album, and did you have a favorite guitar, or do you use multiple?
I've never really had a favorite guitar. Carvin Guitars were sponsoring me, and they would give me guitars, and then certain guitars I would totally custom out to my liking. On the Manic Distortion album, I spent a lot of time with the sounds. I was using Marshall amps and spent a lot of time on guitar sounds. I knew more about mixing when I was doing that album. And pretty much I was mixing some Marshall amps. Maybe I did have a Music Man amp I might have used on certain songs. But now that's contrary to my first album, Sleight of Hand. Sleight of Hand, I didn't know a whole lot about mixing, and it was pretty much just plug in and blaze. I wanted to just kick some ass guitar-wise with that. But when it finally came to Manic Distortion, my playing was at its height. Every time I rolled the tape, I made sure I put a lot of feel into every time I would do an overdub, and was just spent more time into the emotion on that album. Pretty much Sleight of Hand was just blaze away.
All right, so I have one last question for you before we let you go for the evening. So you've performed as a touring drummer for John Anderson in the world of the prog music with Yes Music, and you've been a guitar shredder in the metal realm. As far as a motivational level of playing various styles of music, did you have a preference, or did you have a hard time gravitating from one genre to another genre? You're a musician, you just do whatever. How does it work for you?
Well, that comes, I think, down to being an artist. And, I don't mean to sound like, oh, I'm an artist, but that's kind of how it is. I mean, you kind of keep growing, and I mean, I certainly didn't want to play drums, for all my life. I kind of just grew into different things. You start to like other kinds of music, and it was actually like Kevin DeBro. He got me into AC/DC way back in, I'd say, 1980. And then, I was listening to them for a few years. And then when I saw them, it was the power of the band live that just killed me. And so from there, I just kind of really grew into metal and really got into that. And then by the time Metallica came out, they were even heavier than AC/DC. So as an artist, you're just growing all the time. And, I just felt I did my thing on guitar. And, eventually it led to piano. And then once I got into piano, now I'm listening to Bach and Beethoven. And now I'm listening to pianist. And you just kind of grow from there. And that's how it happens with me. Some guys, they play one instrument, all their lives, and okay, that's good for them, but it wasn't good for me. I just kept growing.
Okay, so how do you view yourself? Do you view yourself as the guitar player that also plays drum and piano, or do you view yourself as the drummer that also plays guitar and piano? How do you view yourself? Do you have a primary?
I don't really. I kind of left that metal thing and grew into other things. I kind of these days I just I get to my piano when I can. During COVID, I was playing piano like 6 hours a day, and so I just kind of think of myself as just an artist continuing on doing what he likes. I'm not going to go out and gig on piano. I just enjoy doing it for my own entertainment.
Yeah, completely understand. Well, we're out of our allotted time, but before we let you go for the evening, is there anything that you would like to promote or plug that we did not cover tonight?
Well, I'm just really thrilled that Heaven and Hell Records decided to put this reissue out of Manic Distortion. Yeah. I really think it kind of shows that Manic Distortion was a classic album. Yes. Back when I did it, I felt I out-Metallic'd Metallica at the time. I think Manic Distortion is a great album. Every song on it is really good. And I want to say that I wish, the drummer, David Eagle, he passed away about 5 years ago. And David would have been really proud that this album was reissued. And he played a big part of this album with me. It was him and I, only just without a bass player. We rehearsed these songs and made these songs grow before the album was recorded. So that's just it. I'm really thrilled. It was Jeremy Golden who got a hold of me to do this reissue, and I think it's really exciting.
Oh, well, we can't congratulate you more on having this re-released for yourself. All right, Guy. Well, hey, have a good night, and I'll be back in touch with you in about 4 weeks.
All right, Eric, thank you, and thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate it.
Take care.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
All right.
Bye-bye.
the grip of nights. If they ever take from you, then you plug out both their eyes. They roll the dice. Take your chances.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day, all with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts.